we were I might say a cocky city. We boasted, we had 34 miles of electric streetcar line. New York had only 15. St. Louis had just 5. We were one of the leaders. And in 1889, we made a serious effort to host a World's Fair.
The history of St. Joseph spans almost 200 years, and in order to help share and tell the stories over those years, I brought in some help, a local historian of sorts. A former newspaper reporter and editor, Bob Slater, sitting down to talk about all of his knowledge and stories from his time in St. Joseph and covering the city he loves. All right, Bob, back again for another conversation. Happy to continue doing these with you. And I know a lot of people are enjoying hearing a lot of stories of the past, a lot of history lessons from the St. Joseph area. And this episode, let's talk about the census that made St. Joseph 100,000, and then for some reason went back down quickly right away too, right?
Correct. Yeah. The census completed in 1900. We had a population by the census count 102,000 some. We were tied with Los Angeles and Portland as the 3 fastest growing cities in the United States. So kind of puts the same category, some big players in the game. But it's probably the biggest case of census fraud in the history of the Census Bureau. I'm sure other cities were playing the same game, trying to build up their population, but I don't think anybody took the extent that St. Joe did. In 1890, we had a population of about 52,000. And fish said, oh, that count is low. We're undercount by at least 10,000. We need to get everybody counted this time. And so they set up a crusade out to make sure everybody was counted. And the newspaper said, be sure you call in names of all your family members, get everything. And, it was pretty easy to cheat in those days because there's, number one, there are no computers and also no Social Security for verification. And so you could go out to a house and say 2 people live in a house, and you can list it as a boarding house and list 8 people in there and just make up some names. You go to the police station and copy through the blotter. Everybody been arrested during the year, add those names there. They were all local residents for the purpose of the census. They saw on St. Joe. People got a little nervous. No St. Joe numbers released, and so verify the numbers. Said, just want to check on it. This man comes in. He's a statistician named Bob. And he said, well, his background, he comes up on train from Memphis. And, it's a hot summer day and everything. And the Board of Trade people, today's Chamber of Commerce, meet with the railroad depot and say, it's been a hot ride. How about we relax a little bit before we show our town? So they went to Hotel Donovan at 6th and Edmond Street. And had a few drinks out there. And after a while, he said, okay, now we're relaxed and everything. Let's show you our city. And so he got in the carriage. And at that time, to set the stage, it's hard to believe, but St. Joe's, the street railway system, deposited 14 million passengers a year. Now, they had something like 180 streetcars going, but 14, if you rode a streetcar to work to and from 6 days a week, you were 12 passengers. But there were literally, by the count, of 14 million people ride the streetcar. So, and the transfer point was at 6th and Edmond. And so, if you worked down south side, lived out in Wyatt Park, you chase buses from 6th to 5th and Edmond. And no matter where the people leave from downtown, a lot of people work downtown in those days. They get the bus down to 5th and Edmond. So that intersection was jammed with people. So they drive by their carriage and said, this is one of our typical intersections here in St. Joe. And he nods and very impressed. So they go around the block, come in from a different direction. Say, here's another intersection. He didn't realize he's the same intersection 2 or 3 times. And so give that tour of the city. They take down to Lotus Club, Lake and Trail for dinner, get around town the next morning. So everybody, well, what is going to happen? And so the report comes in. He says, based on his knowledge, he thinks it's probably been an undercount. And so we got by with the 102,000 population. Los Angeles was slightly ahead of us, and we were tied with Portland for 2nd place. But so we carried that. St. Joe, what was the actual population? Probably somewhere around 70,000. There had been some growth, obviously. Wyatt Park area developed a residential area. South Side was growing a lot. The packing house industry bringing a lot of families down there. A lot of South Park was booming. So the neighborhood's growing. No doubt there were more people here in 19, there were not 100,000 people, though. In fact, by 1910, the count went down to about 77,000. And, we never, the highest count we ever had was 1930. That's the only time we ever hit 80,000. And most of the time we've been around 75,000. We remained there, pretty close to a century now. But the one that kind of sticks out, you look at the St. Joe population chart and you see all these gradually increased. All of a sudden, the big jump in 1900, and then it goes back down. Hey, what happened? How'd you lose all those people? We didn't lose them; they weren't there. But it's a case of city boosters run wild, and they had. But it's stuck in the books. It's still the official record, and people will cite that. Hey, how did we lose all those people? We didn't lose them; they weren't here. We simply made up the names. And cheating was easy in those days, and there's a reason, main reason, just plain civic pride. St. Joe's attitude in those days, we were, I might say, a cocky city. We boasted, we had 34 miles of electric streetcar line. New York had only 15. St. Louis had just 5. We were one of the leaders. And in 1889, we made a serious effort to host a World's Fair. I'm not talking a state fair, a regional fair. Literally, the World's Fair Committee said, they come over and look what we had to offer. Committee agreed, okay, when we get done in Paris, we'll come to St. Joe. From Paris to St. Joe, quite a transition. But the fairgrounds, the area where Mark Twain and Truman School are now, right off of the boulevard there, there were 24 buildings on a 42-acre site, 2 lakes, a waterfall, 11,000-seat amphitheater. We went all out. The centerpiece of the thing was a steel railway car factory, which a fellow named H.D. Perky, P-E-R-K-Y, built in St. Joe to build steel railway cars and steel bridges. He employed 500 people, and the thing was 960 feet long, 2 stories high, but the length of 3 football fields. And so this was to be the big factory after the fair was over. The fair opened in 1869, and there was a lot of anticipation. We had the Apache engines in for the shows every day. And the Bach band from Milwaukee is supposed to be a highly regarded band that taught 2 concerts a day. And so we were ready for a big show. And it opened the 1st of September, and the weather was bad. The attendance was disappointing. And the tragedy hit about 2 weeks into the fair when a fire began, an electrical fire, and burned up the display car, the model car that Perky's factory built. They had a carriage there that Marquis de Lafayette had ridden in when he visited the United States. They rescued that. That did not get burned, but the people lost everything. The loss was far exceeded the insurance, and it was just devastating because a lot of people invested a lot of money in the thing, and Perky himself left town. And he, interesting guy, he had a stomach disorder, and he had been shredded wheat. One of the few things he could have done. So it's an interesting note that St. Joe invented both oatmeal and shredded wheat. So I guess we might say we're the breakfast capital of the world. But Perky left here, and the World's Fair Committee paid a courtesy visit. They came here and they looked over and said, obviously, no chance of we being able to host the World's Fair. Although the governor of Iowa, a member of the committee, voted to give it to St. Joe, but he was the only person that thought we could make a go of it because even the city enthusiasm was down because it was a huge loss. You think what might have been we had a chance for what a World's Fair was meant to St. Joe, but it was a dream that didn't come true, and a fire changed a lot of things. But it's part of our history back there, and I think every time I drive by that Mark Twain School, I kind of look back to the east and say, boy, can you imagine 11,000 seat amphitheater, a waterfall, 2 lakes. They went all out. It was a thing of a city that really wanted to get something going, and the impact, of course, was devastating. But then, of course, we bounced back by 1900 with the big census count. So hey, we're on a roll again.
Bob, it's just kind of fascinating looking back at all the couldas, the wouldas, the shouldas of any time in history for any city. But the World's Fair, that would have been a huge difference maker, right? I mean, people don't think about World's Fairs anymore like they did at that time, but that would have been a huge difference maker, right?
It sure would have been. It's been like the Columbian Exhibition in Chicago, the St. Louis World's Fair in 1903, 1904. And we were in that league. There was we were ready to compete with these people on a big level. And the enthusiasm here, we had enough money to put it all together. And the fact the World's Fair Committee was willing to come here and take a look indicates it was not just a joke. I mean, you don't come from Paris to St. Joe just to get a free trip. They were serious about it. You might want all the tales of what might have. First part I get all the tales of toilet men, whatever happened, what might have been. But it didn't happen. So we go on. We continue to survive as a town with many possibilities, and we hope the future is always good. That we bring more jobs in, but I don't think we're ever going to be again for a World's Fair. Nor will we ever try to get 100,000 people on a census count. Can't do that today with computers and Social Security. They're too easy to check on things these days. A different world out there.